Okay, so here we are. Let's start then with the presentation. As you know, today it's quite an important day for many people. There are thousands of people today quite interested in everything that is happening around the EPSO, the European Personal Selection Office. And in this session, I will cover with you the most important aspects regarding this 85 graduates competition that was published this morning. And I'm pretty sure that all of you are here because you are willing to know more about the key aspects of the competition. Well, for all of you who doesn't know me yet, my name is Carlos Gil. I'm the training director at EPSO. I'm pretty sure that most of us, for most of you, you are connected with me through the LinkedIn. I also try to share some information regarding the EU competitions in my Instagram profile, even though I have to admit that I'm a millennial. Okay, so it is not. I'm not that active in LinkedIn, nor even TikTok. But in case that you want to follow everything that I do, you can find everything about me, my professional profile on the LinkedIn. I'm representing EPSO. We are a social entrepreneurship initiative. We are an academia working on EU competitions for more than 8 years so far. So we've been working on this 24/7. We try to, and this is our aim, we try to democratize the access to the EU as much as possible so that anyone can know everything regarding to the EU competitions, at least has the fundamental information about this kind of competition. Because I remember many years ago when I started my studies, my law studies, in this corner in the top left of Spain, well, it was not in Vilar Mayor, it was in A Coruña. Information about the EU competitions was not easy to get there, and later on, because of my profile and also because I got the privilege of having some support from my government and also from some public institutions. I had some scholarships and I had the possibility later on to also develop my career in the international arena. And actually, I had the possibility to attend the College of Europe, and I saw that all the information regarding the European Union was in the EU bubble. So that's why when we created this institution many years ago, we wanted to create this initiative from a tiny village. It's actually tiny. We don't work from there, I have to admit. And later on, we started also our headquarters in Coimbra. Since 2023, if I'm not mistaken, we are also in Brussels working with candidates all around the world. So this is why we try to do this kind of social initiatives like this one today. Like I was telling you, I will have another session in 1 hour and 45 minutes with our candidates at EPSO. But I know that many of you follow the content that I shared on LinkedIn. And I also wanted to share as much information to help as many people as I can to actually get a good image about this competition. Obviously, this is an opportunity also to represent the work that we do. So in case that you like what we do, we actually will be happy to help you with any kind of competition or any kind of materials that you may need. We work already supporting interesting partners like the Republic of Portugal and many universities and even European Institute for Public Administration. So we are in this field for quite some time, and we also have very good partners. And well, much more information that I'm not going to get to it right now because you are here because of the competition, and I'm very sure that all this information about EPSO, you can find it on our website, and you can even ask me something in case that you need. This session, of course, it's good for us because we can reach more people and more people can get to know what we do, and that is great. We can help people, but this is not a commercial session. Okay, obviously, I'm going to talk to you at some point about the work that we do, the materials that we have, the courses, and I will also share a discount. But honestly, I have to say that we have mostly covered the training spots that we have. We are quite satisfied with the candidates that we have. So in case that you want to practice and you want to get prepared with us, that's perfectly fine. But honestly, it is not my aim here today. What has brought us here today? So actually, the EPSO, as you know, has published this morning in the diary of the European Union the competition, and later on its website, the new AD5 Graduates competition. This document is the official one. Probably most of you already had the opportunity to check it and read it. And actually, I would appreciate it if you can send an emoji or something like that, like I read it or I haven't read it, so that I know what is your starting point. And I see that many of you have checked it, or okay, well, some not. Okay, that's perfectly fine. We are here for that. So first of all, then maybe we can go through the actual competition. Okay, here it is, the competition, the notice of competition. Okay. Well, you should be able to see now the notice of competition. This is a classic notice of competition. There is nothing new regarding that. We have the general provisions, the duties that you can expect to perform in case that you are in the reserve list, the eligible requirements. We will go through it quite deeply in a few minutes, how the competition is going to be organized, and then some information regarding general rules, typical duties, and also regarding the qualifications. So for those of you who are thinking about attending this competition, first thing that should be important to take into account, it is that for any of you who are willing to take part of the competition, this is something that you do not only need to read, but also you need to analyze. Okay, you need to take some time to analyze all the elements of the competition. You need to, I would not say print, okay? I said that I am a millennial, but I also read on technological devices. What I said is that this is something that you need to read carefully and take some notes and take carefully all the information regarding the notice of competition. It's something that maybe you can print it and take it to a cafeteria and read it carefully. Well, regarding the general provisions, here I see that regarding the email, sorry. I'm hearing here the comments. I'm reading the comments on the chat, sorry. I was checking. This session was supposed to be starting at 6. Okay, maybe it was a misunderstanding at some point, but in any case, this session is going to be recorded, and we are going to leave the recording on our YouTube channel from tomorrow. So in case that you missed the first minutes, I can tell you that we haven't talked about essential aspects right now. So do not worry about it. And in case that you have joined a little bit later, probably it was my fault, I have to admit. But what I can tell you is that, yeah, we are going to cover everything, and I'm going to solve all your doubts regarding the competition. Okay, regarding the general provisions, sorry about this because I won't be able to check all the, actually I'm going to hide the comments so that I can focus on the actual presentation. Laura will be able to solve your answers on the chat. Well, regarding the general provisions, the first thing that is quite important is the number of candidates that are sought. In this case, it's a historical number, 1,490 candidates. That is the higher number ever on this kind of competition. But you should not get anxiety because of the number of places that there are available. Okay, something that I recommend, I brought it this morning on my LinkedIn profile on a post, is do not let your feelings take the lead. Okay, you are on time to make the difference until, and I will share some pieces of advice during this session. Obviously, this is a very good number. It's going to be probably the best number in many years. But this doesn't mean that you need to hurry out to hurry up now and to start buying materials and to close yourself at home and start preparing and compete and all of that. Of course, it's something that you need to prepare, but you should not allow anxiety to take the lead on you, okay? Because, like I said, there are some things that are even more important than this. But well, regarding the general conditions, what you need to be is member of one of the 27 member states. Okay, so you need to be a national. If you have been living in a country for more than 5 years and you have and you've lived in that country for those years, but you are not national, you cannot apply for this kind of competition. Okay, you need to be national. Obviously, you need to have fulfilled any obligations depending on your country. Some countries require to have passed the military service and also meet the character requirements for the duties. Regarding the languages, you need to have good knowledge of 2 languages. Okay, one with a C1 level. This could be even your mother tongue, and then you should need to have a B2 level in a second language. For those languages, they should be EU languages, the EU official languages. In the EU, we have 24 official languages. Okay, so let's imagine that, for example, that you are Greek, and you can obviously choose Greek as language number 1, and maybe you want to choose I don't know, for example, Croatian, because maybe your mother or your father, they're from Croatia and you have learned Croatian since you were a child. You could choose that language. You don't need to choose English, French, or German, which are the working languages of the EU institutions, in order to apply for this competition. I will give you some comments on this appreciation in a few minutes, but these are the requirements, okay? Regarding the specific conditions, what you need to have, and this is very important, you need to have diploma of at least 3 years, a university diploma of at least 3 years, okay? And this needs to be completed no later than the 30th of September 2026. So this means that maybe you are in your last year of studies, and you are wondering if you can apply for this competition. And the answer is yes, you can apply for the competition, okay? If you receive the diploma before the 30th of September 2026. And this means that you don't need to have the actual diploma with you, because sometimes after you finish, you complete your studies, it takes some time to send you the diploma. The actual diploma is not needed. You need to have a document, a public document issued by the university saying that you finished your career, your university studies of at least 3 years before this date, okay? And also important, no professional experience is required. And this is important. I have received so many messages since this morning. I woke up very early this morning with my colleagues also, and we were checking, and since the very, very early morning, people were asking me why do they have to send the documents regarding their professional experience, in case that because this competition was not asking professional experience. This means that, for example, if you have worked for, let's say, 2 years in a consultancy firm regarding, let's say, for example, EU funds, first thing that came to my mind, and you include that information on the application form, you will need to send the document or a document with the functions that you have covered in that experience, and also some proof that shows like your contract or the or a public document from your member state saying that actually you've been working on that specific field for that time. Okay, this is basically because the professional experience is not required. So any of you can apply as long as you have this diploma and you fulfill this eligibility criteria. But if you include some professional experience on your application form, you need to prove that experience. And this is something that makes sense because obviously, even though your professional experience is not going to be assessed during the process, if you are in the reserve list, and for example, I am human resources of one of the unit, and I want to recruit someone, and that someone says that she has experience, I don't know, dealing with Horizon Europe program, and I want to choose someone with that experience, that is something that needs to be proved, because probably I will give him some advantage instead of the other. Does it mean that those people with more professional experience are going to be the ones selected from the reserve list? Is it going to be easier for them? And this is a myth, let's say. And I know that there is not an actual response, an active response regarding this question, actually, because this depends on the service, on human resources, the kind of profile that they are looking for. But if you are afraid that maybe because you have only, let's say, your diploma, you have no prior professional experience, you are not going to make it through the reserve list, that is an assumption that it is not true, because sometimes the EU institutions, what they want, it's also people who don't have any previous or any prior experience, so that they can actually build their career within the EU on that service. So do not think that having 10 years of experience, for example, is going to make the difference for passing the reserve list. It will depend on other factors. Okay. Regarding the competitions of the phases of the competition, we are going to check that in a few minutes. Let me just tell you for now that you will have until the 10th of March to present your application. This should be done in the single candidate portal. Okay. And after you send your application, all of you are going to be invited to the actual exam. So if you have any doubt if there is going to be a pre-selection or something like that, not all of you who apply for this competition, you will have the opportunity to do the exams. Okay, obviously, you should and you must fulfill the requirements regarding eligibility. But after that, after the application, you will have an exam, and that exam is going to cover reasoning test, EU knowledge test, digital skills test, and the EUFTE, which is the EU free text essay on EU matters. The reasoning test will be performed in language number 1, and the other exercises will be performed in language number 2. Here you have the deadline, okay? And something else that I want to cover before we go to the actual details in my presentation is that there are some interesting changes in this competition. If you attended the session that we did that we organized on December, probably you know that we have some doubts, and most of those doubts now has been solved. There are many, some at least 2 or 3, that we will need to wait a little bit, and I will tell you a bit about it in order to know, like, for example, the date of the exam. But something quite interesting, it is that the reasoning test, while in other specialist competition, in other previous competitions that we had, it was pass-fail basis. In this competition, verbal reasoning test is going to have a competitive score. And this, what it means, and actually is going to be the determining exercise, so one of them, at least a higher one, that will determine if you enter the reserve list, because the percentage of the weight that it has in the weighted average is going to be the heavier one. So actually, you need to have the best possible score on the verbal reasoning test in order to make it to the reserve list. Well, combined with the other exercises. So this is not going to be something like I get a 10 out of 20 and that's it. No, you will need to have the most competitive score. Regarding numerical and abstract reasoning, this is going to be pass-fail. Okay, so they are not looking for competitive score in numerical and abstract. They just want you to get the minimum, which is a 10 out of 20 in the addition of the score of numerical and abstract reasoning. So this means that, for example, if you get a 0 out of 10 in numerical reasoning and you get a 10 out of 10 in abstract reasoning, you will be in the process. Okay, you would be able to actually participate on this, continue on the actual competition. But for example, let's imagine that you get 100%. I mean, you get the best possible score in verbal, in new knowledge, in digital skills, and the EUFTE, but you get a 0 out, well, let's say, for example, not a 0, but a 4 out of 10 in numerical reasoning and a 5 out of 10 in abstract reasoning, you will not make it to the result list. Okay, so be careful because with this competition, you need to take these details into account because they make the difference. These are a big change regarding other competitions that we had previously. Regarding the EU knowledge test, we will have 30 questions to answer in 40 minutes, and this, even that we have a pass score, we will need a competitive score anyway. So you should be getting the best potential score on the EU knowledge test. This is something to consider, okay? And then we have one of the main novelties of this competition, which is the digital skills test. It's going to be the first time that we have digital skills test in a competition. And as happened also with the EU knowledge test and with the Britain test, this exercise should be performed in your language number 2. You will have 40 questions in 30 minutes, so it's going to be a very quick exercise. You will need to score also a competitive score. And if you don't manage to get the pass score, even though, for example, you get the maximum score on the verbal, on the EU knowledge, and also on the Britain test, you will not make it to the result list. So be careful with this. And with the EUFTE, it's happened more or less the same thing. We have this EU free text essay on new matters that is going to be performed in your language number 1, the one that you decide. You will have 40 minutes to get at least a 5 out of 10. But again, this is going to be a competitive score. Something to consider, it is that not all the EUFTEs, this test is not going to be assessed for all the candidates. Before that, before they start evaluating the EUFTEs, they are going to have a preliminary score. This means that they will check if you pass numerical and abstract reasoning. Also, you have the minimum mark on the other exercises, and they will check if you get, they will rank those, the people with the highest score on verbal, EU knowledge, and digital skills, and those will have the opportunity, well, 1.5, the number of that will have the opportunity to be assessed in their EUFTE, okay? And once that they have the overall score of all the candidates, that will be the time of ranking them, and for that, it will be, again, a weighted final score, which will be 35% for verbal reasoning, 25% for the EU knowledge, 25% for the digital skills, and finally 15% for the EUFTE. I know that it sounds a bit confusing, but don't worry, because we're going to see that on my presentation in a few minutes. And I think that I have prepared a graphic that hopefully it shows better the information. Read everything, please, carefully, because this is very important. Regarding the general rules, it's something that you need to know. You need to know this, and there is one very important detail that you should not miss, even at this point. Usually, the EPSO, they ask that you should upload your documents, like the documents of your academic documents or your professional experience documents, on a specific date. And obviously that happened also in this competition. But there is also something else that is included. Let me just look for it, because I think it's over here. Yeah. So it's over here. You have until the 10th of March to present your applications through the single candidate portal, like I told you. And by 7th of October, you will have sent all the information regarding the declarations that you made on the application form. But, and this is a very important but, also by the time when you send your application, you will need to upload a scanned copy of your ID card or your passport. If you don't do that, you will be disqualified. And please take very good attention of this, because this is going to be 100% for sure a concern. This is going to be a problem for many candidates, that they are going to forget about this. And it will be such a pity that you get disqualified for this tiny detail. So remember, once that you start building your application form, one of the first things to do include upload your identity card or your passport, because this is essential. And I know that many people, they are going to fail on this. Probably you have heard that these competitions are very competitive, that almost heroes are the ones that make it to the result list. But I can tell you that in my experience of many years working on this field and talking with many candidates who made it to the result list, you don't need to be the clever person on the room, and you don't need to be someone with special powers. What you need to do is consistency to prepare for this competition, and for the other side, take very good care of these tiny details that make the difference. And while other they fall in these tiny aspects, by avoiding those mistakes, you are way closer to your objective. So do not undermine yourself. This is something that, honestly, I think that if you manage to get a diploma from the university, you can pass this kind of competition. But this is about these two aspects: consistency in the preparation, and also for the other side, reading everything carefully, and do not make these kind of mistakes. So reading the general rules is also essential, so that you cover everything that it is necessary. Here you are going to find all the information that you need. And actually, something else that I could recommend, in case that you have any potential doubt, you can download the notice of competition. You can send it to an artificial intelligence, and also the artificial intelligence can help you find the key aspects that you may need at some point. But just to help you with that specific information, okay? But even though, be careful with the artificial intelligence. Do not use them to create your application form and for all kind of sensitive issues, because sometimes, obviously, artificial intelligence, they are also a bit stupid, or they make mistakes at least. So be careful with that. Okay, here you have all the information regarding the supporting documents, everything that you need to know. I'm not going to be devoting too much time to it, because it's something that it is just about reading. But yes, let me come here to you and ask your attention also regarding to the Annex 2 of the actual competition. And I can tell you that by far, most of the candidates who prepare for the EU competitions, most of them, sometimes they don't even open the notice of competition. Okay, there's a percentage of people who don't open the notice of competition, but most of the people who apply for in this kind of competition, they don't get here. They enter the notice of competition, they see the number of candidates that are sought, the exercises that they will need to lead with, and the scores. And they don't pay attention to the typical duties, which in my view is one of the essential aspects of notice of competition. Some time ago, probably you have heard or you meet you know who I'm talking about, Luis Amorin, who was the head of external outreach of the EPSO. We were in a training, and I remember he said something very clever, and is when you have doubts regarding the competition that you want to apply for, it is just about coming to the notice of competition, because all the rules, all the information that you need is actually here. Sometimes it is just that you haven't spent the time necessary to go through the most important aspects. And these typical duties are the most important ones, because they are essential to understand the kind of questions that they may ask you. Probably for the 85 graduates competition, this is not going to be the life change information for you, but yes, it's going to give you some information about anything that may appear. For example, here when they are talking about political, policy, legal, evaluation, these are words that obviously you need to know, but also that you need to translate into the EU world. So if they are asking that if you pass the competition, you will be drafting legal acts, obviously you need to know what is a regulation, what is a directive, what is a recommendation, the differences between them, the legal sources of the European Union. You will actually need also to get to know what is a unit, obviously the institutions and the functions that they have, also regarding policy implementation. So you will probably need to know what is an impact assessment, for example, or you will need to know what is the enforcement of EU law. You will need to know the values of the European Union. You need to know, obviously, the program and project cycle, because these are essentials for the EU. So in case that you are accessing now into the EU world, this is something, the first step that you need to take, and it's going to help you a lot in your EU knowledge preparation. Okay, and for those of you who are maybe already working on the EU or doing your traineeship over there, this is also something that it's worth mentioning, not only because it's going to help you understand the EU knowledge that at some point, the framework at least that is needed, but also because obviously you need to write an application form on the single candidate portal. And in order to write your best application form, obviously you need to try to write whatever is aligned with these functions. So if you have the experience of working, let's say, for example, researching on the area of law, it will be very good that you write it on your application form. So this is a base, this is like the main elements that you need to consider in order to also build your application form. So devote some time to it. And then we have the annex number 3, which is the classical one that shows the different qualifications depending on the member states. Something that you need to consider, because this is going to help you also when you are fulfilling the single candidate portal. Something to consider also the credits and the kind of education that it is included, the European framework for the university studies. It is also worth considering. And for the other side, also something that you need to consider is that if you get your diploma, your university diploma from a university of a country that it is not a member of the European Union, you need to have a certificate of equivalence. This means actually that if, for example, you studied in the United States and you completed your university studies, you need an equivalence from one of the agencies of the member states that certifies that equivalence. And a tip here for some of you who may be in this situation, you don't actually need to have the equivalence from your member state. You can actually require that equivalence from other member states, because, and this is a good tip to know, it is that there are some countries which are quite faster than the other to give this document. Sorry. Okay. Well, so with this, we have covered the essentials of the the notice of competition. Now I'm going to go a bit further in some key aspects that you can find interesting. And I'm going to go through my presentation. Some of them we have talked already about them, but I think that they are important. It's something that you need to consider. Well, I have structured this presentation with some questions that I have received during the day, because I think that they are a good representation of the questions that you may have. Okay, so let me go through it. The main question that I have received it today in my email and in my LinkedIn messages is, when will the exams take place? Is the EPSO going to publish the date this afternoon? Well, you probably saw this, but the EPSO published also the competition in its own website. They are going to publish also a video giving some context regarding of the competition, but they have not said anything regarding when the exam is going to take place. And this is quite common. Okay, so just to give you an image, and this is something that I was answering this morning to maybe some of you over there. It is that, for example, in the building specialist competition, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm talking by heart, but I think that the deadline for applying, it was actually during the summer. We didn't have the actual day of the exam until the beginning of January. So it took some time. It took almost 3 months since the application deadline was finished to get to know the date of the competition. They had this competition on the 27th of January, so a few weeks ago. So it took more or less 6 months since they published the competition and they had the exams. We don't know if that is going to happen also with the graduate competition. If you attended the session that we had, the open session that we had in December, I showed you this, this expected timeline. Let's say the pre-announcement was on December 2025, and we anticipated that probably the notice of competition, it will be on February 2026. So this is something that actually corresponded to reality, and the competition was published now at the beginning of February. The next expectation that we have is when we are going to have the exams. And this is something that the EPSO has not said, okay? And this is very important for you to know, because I don't have inside information regarding when the exam is going to take place. This is my guess, okay? So we guess that in the best possible scenario, considering the circumstances, the exam could take place late April. This is my guess. Again, it could happen, but maybe surprisingly, they include this exam at the beginning of April. But for me, it will be very, very surprising. So I would say that probably it could take place between late April and July. This was my guess in December, and it is still my guess at this point. Probably we could have the result list by September 2026. If you ask me now that the competition was published, what I said is that there is even one window of opportunity, let's say, to have even the exams in September. So I would say that this period, and I know that I'm not discovering much, because it's more or less what anyone with some information and experience in this field would say, probably could take between late April and September. And why do I say September? Because usually this is not something that is going to happen for sure, but in previous experiences, when the EPSO published the deadline to submit the final documents, usually the exams would take place a few weeks before those exams. And if you remember, and I'm pretty sure that you do, let me come here again to the notice of competition. I think I have it here. Yes. If you remember what we said a few minutes ago, it is that, the documents need to be uploaded by 7th of October 2026. So if this would happen like in previous competitions, we could even have exams in September. And in that case, probably would be in the last weeks of September. So well, that's something to consider. Let's say what's happened. Well, until now, is everything clear? It's interesting, the information that I'm sharing with you. Is it too obvious? Were you expecting something like this? Okay, great. Thank you for the feedback. I see all your emojis, hearts, and that's great. Also, thank you so much for all your kindness. I was talking about this morning and yesterday, because it's truly great to see that there are so many people on the other side, that you value so much my work. I also want to say that I managed to do so many things because I have colleagues behind me. We are a team right now of more than 10 people working on EPSO. It's for people like Lara here that everything is possible. So thank you for my colleagues, and thank you so much for your kindness. Another question that I get is, when should I start preparing? And obviously, this depends on you. But honestly, if you are not preparing up to this point, you should be start thinking about it. How much time do you need to devote to the preparation, considering that the exam could take place between May and September? And that actually, if you don't want to have like a bad surprise, I would say that you should have on your calendar beginning of May, because later on, if you have one more month in order to get everything together, that would be great. But reality shows that you need to be prepared for any possible scenario. And one of those scenarios is that maybe we have the competition in May. We could be surprised with a competition on the 9th of May with the Day of Europe. Honestly, I don't think so, because everyone at the institutions are quite crazy in those dates, but that could happen, okay, having a competition on May, I would say. So if you want to start now and you want to prepare seriously, you will need to devote more or less around 20 hours of your week to this competition. You don't need to have like 40 or 60 or 80 hours. Of course, if you have them, that's perfectly fine, because studying for the EU knowledge is going to make a significant difference with other candidates. Okay, but if you manage to get 20 hours, 20 quality hours, let's say, to devote to this preparation, you will be quite closer to your goal. Okay, if you only have like 5 to 10 hours to prepare, okay, go to the competition anyways. You are not going to lose. You're not going to lose that much if you don't enter the reserve list. But if you want to prepare seriously, I would tell you that those 20 hours is something, let's say, not negotiable. Depending also on the way that you are preparing, because maybe well, you have some previous experiences and you don't need to prepare that much for the, I don't know, for the reasoning test, for example, or maybe you have studied right now or a few months ago, you have completed a master's degree in new law or new policies or whatever, and you are more than familiar with those topics. But I'm talking for someone who is not that familiar. 20 hours at least during the week is something that you need to devote. Okay, and I will give you more piece of advice in a few minutes. Who can apply for the 85 graduates competition? Okay, so let's do a recap quite quickly. Remember, European citizenship, the citizenship of one of the 27 member states. We don't have job requirements for this one. Regarding the languages, you need to choose language number 1 and then language number 2. They need to be different. Okay, so you cannot choose the same one for those of them. If you choose English for the first one, then B2 should be another one. My advice, my honest advice, is that what I would do I would choose your language number one, then your mother tongue, sorry, as your language number one. For one main reason, verbal reasoning test is one of the most challenging exercises that we had on the EU competition. For sure, until now, it's like that. Something that I share very much with people when I give these kind of trainings, or well, when I am on courses and all of that, is that usually people underestimate, sorry, the verbal reasoning exercise. They think that it is just about reading, it is easy, anybody can do it. I know how to read. I'm quite familiar with that. I'm very good at reading. I'm an intelligent person, and I know, but there are some nuances in the languages that even for a native speaker is quite difficult. So if you're at some point, if this is a tough language in your language number one, let's imagine if you choose, for example, English as a language number two, that maybe you are quite good speaking English, but maybe there are some expressions that you don't manage to understand that well. So my advice would be that if you are in doubt, choose your mother tongue as language number one. As for language number two, again, my advice, that obviously depends on you. I recommend very much people choosing English as language number two. And this is not because the EU institutions may like better English. This is because the structure of the language, the English, it is way more easier to write that. For example, at least for me, I'm Spanish. I speak Spanish fluently. But for example, I spend most of my time in Portuguese and in Portugal, and I speak Portuguese on my daily life. And I also speak English, and I would say that I have professional competence on this. But I would say that even if I speak even better Spanish than English, I would choose English as language number two, because drafting in English a document like the free text essay, the EUFTE, in this competition, at least for me, that I usually work in English, is way easier to do it in English, because the complexity of the language in Spanish is way beyond the complexity that we have in English. That English is a language that is about clarity and about simple structures of grammar. While, for example, Italian, French, Portuguese, Spanish, they're a bit more complex. So that's my piece of advice, but of course, it depends on you. Regarding the language, you don't need a language diploma, okay? So you don't need to have a C2 level in English, your diploma, in order to attest that. You don't need to have, for example, if you want to go, for example, for me, like I told you, my second language now probably will be between Portuguese and English. I have obviously a certificate in English, but I don't have a certificate in Portuguese. But I could also apply for this competition with my Portuguese as language number two. Okay, so remember, you don't need a language diploma. What you need is the completed university level studies that I told you of at least 3 years attested by a diploma. Another common question that I get, can I apply if I have not yet graduated? And I have answered this question a few minutes ago. Yes, but that decision awarding your university diploma, that certificate from the university, should be created no later than the 30th of September 2026. It is quite usual, at least for me, it's usual because I'm quite familiar with the university ecosystem, that when you finish one career, the first thing that you do is you get this decision that awards your diploma. So it is a very simple procedure that you can get in just few hours. But of course, you need it. Do I need professional experience to apply? No, you don't. Maybe this is a surprising question for you, but I have seen these questions very much asked during today. Another question, can I apply with a diploma obtained outside the EU? Like I told you, yes, you can, but the diplomas that are issued outside the EU must be recognized by the competent authority of an EU member state. So take good care about this. Another question, Carlos, this is going to take me a lot of effort. I'm going to devote time and probably money to prepare for this. Does it worth it? And I don't have actually a clear answer for that, because that depends on you. I talk with people interested in getting to the EU world almost every week. Many people that I talk with, I see so many CVs. And I would say that the main element, it is not about the CV. A myth that I would like to go against is this myth that you need to have previous experience in order to work for the EU institutions. What I can tell you is that for me, one of the most shocking things that I discovered about the EU institutions when I was working on my thesis many years ago in 2018, I was in the European Commission mostly all the time, having interviews with many officials, is that most of them, they applied for the Blue Book traineeship, for example, for having the traineeship in the European Commission, and they never were selected. I met more people without any previous experience within the EU than those that had those previous experience. So obviously, this is a great competition, okay? This is going to be a competitive scenarios. If someone tells you that this competition is going to be easy, do not trust them, okay? There are no easy solutions for complex problems, and this competition obviously is going to be a challenging one. We have seen that we have almost 1,500 positions for this competition. Yes, it is huge, but there are so many people, very qualified people, applying for this competition. So obviously, it's something that you need to consider and you need to take into account. But being said that, you don't need to have previous experience within the EU. And obviously, if you had a Blue Book traineeship and you are in the reserve list, and for me at least, being a head of unit, and I'm looking for someone to include in my unit, if I have 2 diplomas and I know that there is someone who has done Blue Book traineeship before, for me, it tells me more things about that people, that those other people who doesn't have that previous experience. But this is basically common sense. But you don't need to have that in order to pass to the reserve list, of course. And then in the reserve list, what I can tell you also based on my experience is that it is true that people who had previous experience within the European Union, sometimes they get a position in a closer period of time. They don't need that much time to pass the reserve list. But what I can tell you also with all my honesty is that during all these years helping people getting into the reserve list, we don't have any situation in which we had a candidate into the reserve list. And they waited and waited and waited and didn't get the position. It is something that didn't happen. And people without any previous experience, they made it and they passed the reserve list. Obviously, something that you need to know, probably we can have another session on that in another day, is that being in the reserve list is also, let's say, a test. You need to be proactive and you need to follow the steps needed in order to pass the reserve list. But it's something that anyone, even without previous experience in the EU, they can pass. But, well, is it worth it? And I would say that the general conditions for working in the EU are really great. You can prepare in a short period of time. The salary obviously is very good, mostly for some countries of the European Union. For some others, maybe it is not that attractive. You can check the last resolution from the European Union. Something that you need to consider is that obviously the salary is very good, that there are many places, that is great working in the EU. I have to say that for me, my job is great, and I love my job. And I have decided to not working for the EU and to work in this field, because it's something that I do aside with my work. My responsibilities also with academia in the university. But I would say that the second best job in the world probably is working in the EU. It's really great. You have to work. You get the opportunity to work in so many different aspects. You have different professional careers within your own professional life. Honestly, I don't know. I have never met anyone working in the EU who were not satisfied with their path working as a public servant of the European Union. So this is what I can tell you. The conclusions, obviously, are yours. Well, what is the selection process and what test will I face? We will actually going through this. Like I told you, now you have until the 10th of March to create your application form on the single candidate portal. After that, you will be invited to this test, to the reasoning test, your knowledge test, digital skills, and the EUFTE. And if you manage to get the most competitive score on these exercises, you will get into the result list. How are the tests? How are the exercises? Okay, the exercises. Okay, so you need to check the notice of completion. Like I told you, go through the single candidate portal, create your application. Like I told you, checking the annex number 2 regarding the functions is important, but also it is to check the European Union framework for competencies. There is the EPSO framework for competencies that it is obviously it's public. You can check it online. If you look for EPSO competency framework, you will see that the 8 main competencies of the European Union are these that you can see on the screen. So it is good also that you get familiar with those competencies and you include them while you are, well, obviously, you should not write those competencies in a way that it is so obvious. You shouldn't say, I have very good communication and self-management skills. Obviously not. But you can create also some descriptions that match these competitions. So yeah, consider these 8 competencies in order to create your application form. Then on the day of the exam, this should be done in a single day exam. You'll have to face verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning in your language number 1. Usually in previous competitions, like I said, EPSO has not said anything until now, but probably this exercise will take place on that specific day at 10 o'clock in the morning, where you will sit first verbal, then numerical, and then abstract reasoning. Okay, for numerical and abstract, only the minimum. But remember, for the verbal reasoning test, you need a competitive score. The kind of exercise that you can find, it is like this one. For the verbal reasoning test, short test, always the same question, and then 4 possible answers. And probably for some of you, this would seem a bit easy, but these questions, they are not that obvious because you are not only searching for the one that is correct. Sometimes you have some options that are correct and you need to get which is the most correct out of them. You could even find yourself in a situation in which 3 options are correct and you need to choose which is the most correct out of them. So it's a quite demanding exercise. And here, the tiny details make the difference because you need to go exactly through that specific element that may change the meaning of the sentence. There is a wide and rich methodology. For example, we at EPSO, we have in our preparation, we have 7 sessions covering verbal reasoning. I think it's close to 10 hours, more or less, of only going through the different methodologies regarding verbal reasoning test. So it is something that actually you can get through it, and probably we could even expand those sessions and those explanations. So there's many things to cover regarding that exercise. Then we have numerical reasoning exercises that honestly for me are one of the easier ones because, yes, we have a lot of information here, but the methodology, I mean, the kind of steps that you need to follow, once that you are, again, quite familiar with them, it's easier for you to solve the exercise. You can even anticipate the kind of methodology that you need to apply for step number 1, 2, or even 3. Okay, the steps that you need to follow to solve the exercises depend obviously on each exercise, but usually it takes around 3 steps. You could find one exercise with only 1 step, and you could find others with 5 steps, for example. But this is about getting to know the details of the exercises, to read the statement in the best possible way, and to actually deal with the time constraint, which is quite big. Okay, and I see here Maria Viedma that he was maybe having some memories regarding numerical reasoning exercises. But yes, she should not complain, because I know that it went very well for her in some previous internal competitions. So do not complain, Maria. Okay, so let's go now to the abstract reasoning exercise. It is a very, I wouldn't say a straightforward exercise, because obviously this is a very good, simple one. This is very easy. It is just to show you the structure, that we have a statement and we have 5 possible answers here. So what you need to do is to study the diagrams, the sequence, and anticipate which is going to be the correct answer. Remember what I told you at the beginning of this session. The minimum is an overall of 20 out of 40, disgregated in 10 out of 20 in the addition of numerical and abstract reasoning, and that you only need a 10 out of 20 in verbal reasoning exercise. But remember that you need a competitive score in verbal reasoning test, that you should try to do the best out of the verbal reasoning exercise. And then for numerical and abstract, even if you get a 0 out of 10 in abstract reasoning, but you have a 10 out of 10 in numerical reasoning, you will be perfectly fine. Obviously, you cannot relax, okay? But this is something that I'm pretty sure that with good training and good preparation, you will be all right. Something also that I want to tell you, piece of advice regarding the these kind of exercises. Of course, at EPSO, we have question packages. Now we have them, I think that in Spanish, English, French, Portuguese, and Italian. At the beginning of next week, we will also have them at least in Polish, Dutch, Croatian, Greek, and German. Yeah, those will be the languages that will be available at the beginning of next week. And also, we are looking forward to have the 24 official languages by this month. But what I wanted to tell you is that even if you practice with our materials, or you buy other kind of materials, or you get some book or whatever, something that you need to consider is that it is not about doing so many exercises. You don't need to have like 2,000 exercises in order to prepare for this kind of exercise, for this kind of test. What you need to do, and this is the real change, is to understand which are the dynamics behind each exercise. Why, when you chose one option in verbal reasoning, and that option was not correct, understanding why it was not correct and why the correct one was the correct one. So try to devote more time to analyzing the exercises more than just simply doing them. Okay, so this is my advice for the reasoning test, and obviously for everything regarding the CBTs. One of the most key aspects is also working on an online platform with time constraint, with a calculator, virtual calculator, and a scratchpad, because that makes the difference. In case that you are going short of budget and you cannot spend 40 euros or 45 euros that it may cost these materials, and you have a book, for example, scan that book and work on the book in your computer, so that you can also get some agility, you get some speed working with a calculator and somehow scratch pad. Okay, try to recreate as much as possible the circumstances of the exam. Regarding the EU knowledge, okay, so nothing interesting, let's say, has been said regarding the EU knowledge, at least until now, because like I said, the video was not released at this point, but the information that we got from the EPSO in the EU competition, it was not published a list of sources. Probably they will publish a list of sources at some point, but until now, they haven't done that. What I can tell you is that the EPSO, the EU careers, they have a corner in the EU Publications Office. The EU Publications Office is a great service of the European Union. I talk very much about this website. It's an official website of the European Union, and they cover so much information regarding, let me just go through it with you. Just a second. I will share it in my screen. Okay. Obviously, we don't have sources until now, but in the Publications Office, here we have the EU Careers material. If you search on Google for EU Careers material Publications Office, you are going to find this compilation of materials that could help you prepare for this EU knowledge test. And I think it is a very good selection. So probably most of the questions could come from here. There is a tricky detail regarding this, is that the EPSO has said that these publications are interesting, but also the summaries of EU legislation, some information regarding EU sources and European integration. So they can obtain the questions from these documents, but they can go beyond that, and they can go to your legs, which is mostly an infinite source of information regarding the EU. What I can tell you that, from my perspective, could be wise to do is like checking mostly all the information, well, taking the treaties, of course, the Treaty on the European Union, the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, those are essentials, of course. And also for the other side, checking these resources that I have just shared with you on the EU Publications Office, the selection of EU careers materials, and also check the main policies of the European Union that you can find on the summaries of legislation, which link is included in that website. Okay, if you search for some help regarding the EU knowledge, obviously there are. For example, we at EPSO, we are going to publish a course on EU knowledge. We have also our postgraduate program that covers the EU institutions and EU policies, but also is something that you can prepare on your own. If you are going to get some extra materials, what I will tell you is that try to ask other people about the quality of those materials, okay? Because honestly, we have many people who come to us after spending a lot of money on some materials which are not accurate, which are old sometimes. What I can tell you is that such circumstances are sad, as well as some other circumstances in which you could pay for getting a preparation in new knowledge, and they could provide you these materials. These materials are free for everyone. They're free. Nobody can charge you for anything like this. Okay, something different is if those people, for example, us, we do that. We have created our own materials with some experts on EU affairs. Okay, that's perfectly fine. That's something different. But these materials are completely free for everyone. Okay, and this is a very good source of information. Something else that I want to address here is regarding the digital skills test. This is one of the main news regarding this competition. This is an exercise in which we will have a competitive score. Okay, we have a pass at 20 out of 40. We will have 40 questions in 30 minutes. And the main document to prepare for this, again, there are some documents, but the document that you should consider is the Digital Competence Framework for Citizens. This is a guide from the EU institutions that in which they are cover the essential elements of this competition. And be careful with this because there is a new DITCOM, the 3.0, but in the notice of competitions, they have detailed that this is the one that in which they are going to rely to assess the candidates. So the main difference between both of them is that the 3.0, it includes information and knowledge regarding artificial intelligence, and this doesn't. So again, for preparing for this exercise, you have here a very interesting guide to prepare. Obviously, if you want other sources, we also have a course on that field, and we also have questions. But again, this is free and accessible to everyone. This is an official and public source, okay? And we actually used, in order to create our own questions for our candidates, we create the official sources as it should be. Okay, so this is not magic in the preparation of this kind of on this kind of materials. I'm being, as you can see, 100% transparent on everything because I think that is what you deserve, obviously. Okay, something else that I want to address now. I just wanted to show you an example of the kind of questions of digital skill. This is an example from the EPSO. Okay, the EPSO has published this in their own website, and as you can see, it's a very simple question. For millennials and from younger people here, this could seem quite obvious, but maybe for our parents, that wouldn't be so obvious. But yeah, if I'm using my smartphone screen, which of the following technologies enable me to connect to the internet? Yeah, it's simple, but there are some people who don't have this knowledge about the data skills. And then we come to the final exercise, which will probably be around 3:30 on the day of the exam, which is the EUFTE, the EU free text on new matters. This is one of the elements that the EPSO has included in the test. You can find the anchors on EPSO's website, but I include them here. Like I told you, being successful in this kind of competition is about the details. And the details in the EUFTE is basically about getting to know the anchors, what they are going to evaluate from you. So yeah, that's something. Obviously, you need to know what they are going to assess from you in order to build the kind of document that they are looking for. In the past, for these written tests or EUFTs, they have included a wide range of different documents. For example, for the previous EUFT, which was the one on the assistant grade 3, I think it was on December 2024, I think it was the exam. It was this. It was a competition regarding finance, public procurement, and accountability. Yeah, I think it was. But the base document that they had to analyze, it was this document about the roadmap, the EU roadmap to fight drug trafficking and organized crimes. So just to give you the context, 14 days before the exam, usually the EPSO publish, they do not send you, they publish a base document that on their website, on the website of the competition, with the materials that you need to prepare for that written test. So you have 14 days usually to prepare for that written test. And obviously on the day of the exam, you will find a task that depends from one competition to the other related to the information that you had to analyze. So people who analyze in depth this document, they pass the EUFT. Those who don't, they fail. They don't get the minimum pass because it's a very, I wouldn't say difficult exercise, but it's a demanding one, okay? If, again, there are some examples, these are other documents that were included in previous ones. In case that you want to prepare this part with us, we have the written test focus group that it was opened yesterday, I think it was, and we cover during more than 13 hours, I think it is, everything that, from our perspective, anyone should know in order to be to be relaxed. Well, not relaxed, but prepare at least for this exercise. And then, if you manage to get the numbers that I told you, you would get in the result list. What is the scoring system? The scoring system, probably this was surprising for some of you with previous experience with the EU competitions, because we have two scoring systems here. For one side, the scoring systems that lead to your EUFTE being assessed. So actually, after the exam, the EPSO will do the following. They will see if you get the minimum in the CBTs, in the EU knowledge and the digital skills test, and they will take out those people who didn't get the minimum, who maybe had a lower score, for example, on the numerical, on the abstract, or on the verbal, or EU knowledge, or digital skills. And after that, they will rank the people with the highest score combined of verbal reasoning, EU knowledge, and digital skills test. Okay? And they will rank those people until one threshold, and they will, at that point, evaluate the EUFTE of those people and create a combined score. And that combined score is going to be 35%. The weight, it will be 35% for the verbal, 25 for the EU knowledge, 25 for digital skills, and 25 and 15 for the EUFTE. So again, there is no peace in this competition, because you need to get the minimum, and at the same time, you need to get the best possible score in verbal, EU knowledge, digital skills, and EUFTE, because that is going to make the difference. Okay? How many posts will be available? Well, we know that now, 1,490 positions. Does this mean that everyone who get into the reserve list, they are going to get their positions? And the answer is no, not everyone. Well, there are some exceptions in some reserve list in which there are no anyone else in the reserve list, because they cover. I think that happened, if I'm not mistaken, with the 85 for EU law, that it was published in 2020, that it was quite quick that they get without candidates in the reserve list. But in most of the reserve lists, what happens is that sometimes people are in that reserve list for several reasons. Sometimes because they have not built, for example, a very good application form. So obviously, if you don't create an application form from the reserve list, it's going to be difficult, or at least it's going to be more difficult that someone asks you to join their team, because they don't get a very good picture about you. So that's something that you should consider. And for the other side, sometimes people, they don't know that the reserve list is also challenging part of the actual competition, because you need to be active, you need to search for opportunities, you need to send many applications to different positions, very good applications, I have to say, in order to get an interview up and pass the reserve list. From our experience, and I have to say again that this is not like a magic formula that we have. This is basically about job, about the kind of effort that we do, and mostly the kind of effort and the candidates they do, is that they devote a lot of time to check some vacancies, to send application, to apply for those positions for laureate. We didn't have any candidates not passing the reserve list. Okay, we are reaching mostly the end. I have here a couple of more questions that I would like to go through it. Well, three actually. The first one, again, I don't want to do much promo, but I have to say that it was one question that I have received quite often today with many messages, and I here apologize with all of you who didn't get a message from me today, because today has been hectic for me. because of the publication. I had to prepare this session. I have to say that I was not the one sending your messages to attend to this session today, because I was doing so many other things. So it was someone of the team getting to you in my name and sending you the link in order to access. And we couldn't even have time, even that person was working since 8 this morning, sending the links, and we didn't have time to cover almost everything. So, but many calls and also some emails that I get, and the few LinkedIn messages that I got to see was, should I go through it? Should I prepare for this? And like I told you, this depends on your personal circumstances. If you think that you're in the right moment to apply for it, if you have the time that is needed, if you have the let's say the patience also and the consistency, if you are strong enough to devote a bit of quality time every day to pass the competition, and if you do that, I think that you're on time to do it. And I think that you're on time to do it because talking completely open regarding this, what I can tell you is that most of the people, they do not prepare. We receive people, even messages from people, even 10 days before the exam, for competitions which are quite, which have a ratio of success quite low. It happened, for example, for the building specialist competition a few months ago. A few weeks ago, we even had people 10 days before the exam asking to join our preparation in order to try to do their best before the exam. So it is true that maybe, I don't know how many people will apply for this competition. In previous years, we had like 20,000 people applying for the 85. Maybe now we have 30,000, 35, I don't know. But what I can tell you is, from my experience, probably around 80% of the people, they don't actually prepare as they should. In my humble opinion, those 80%, maybe they think that they have signed for the competition, they will try their luck, maybe they could be luck at any point, like we could be, if we could play any lottery or something like that, because the chances obviously are over there. But those who actually devote time and prepare and they do their best are the ones who make it. Maybe, yeah, 20% of the people who actually prepared and has been preparing for this for a few months or years even, because we haven't had this competition in quite a long time. Even those people could have a bad day, but obviously their chances of passing the competition is higher than for anyone else. So if you want to get into this new world and you have the time, go for it. Invest time, invest your efforts on it. If you don't think that you will be able to make it, yeah, probably you can buy some materials and try your luck. It's not going to be easy to be successful, of course, because you'll have fierce competition out there. But yeah, it's worth it. Okay. What we are planning to do with our preparation, we already closed some of our training courses to prepare. What we have open right now, there are the focus groups. We have several focus groups in our website. What I can tell you actually is that by far the most intense one, it is the 85 intense path. For me, I think it's, and I can say it openly again, that this is way below the price that it should have. We try to keep it that low. I know that for some of you, maybe it is not that low, but we try to keep it below the €1,000, but it includes so many hours of preparation. Like I told you, it includes, like, for example, 13 hours of written test. It includes the verbal reasoning exercise, which is like 10 hours, 13 hours for the numerical reasoning. For the abstract reasoning also, around 10 hours, all the materials for the EU knowledge, which is actually all the documents that we have created, so many exercises for all the, honestly, is the best one, I have to say. We even have the even a better program, which is the Compass Navigator, which is a bit more expensive because you have some sessions every week, 2 sessions per week. It's a very good plan, of course, but in case that you find that you're not going to take advantage of attending those sessions, those 2 sessions every week, this intensive path, it is very, very cheap than if you buy, for example, any course independently. Well, you can check all these materials. Again, I don't mean to be here selling anything, but you can find all the information over there. Just to give you a hint regarding the EU knowledge, like I told you, in these EU knowledge materials, what we work on is basically the integration process and the different EU institutions. And then we also work on the legal dynamics of the European Union, also on the different policies. Again, we don't have magic. What we have done is like trying to save some time from our candidates, make their lives easier than being by themselves checking all the. About the platform, we have the platform. It was published by the EPSO a few weeks ago. I published this in one of my LinkedIn publications. You can access also to a sample of the platform in the EPSO website. I can show it to you in a quick. I'm running a bit out of time, but I think that this is important for you. So let me come here. Okay, if you go to the EPSO website here, about the selection process in the EPSO testing, you will find that we have here EPSO test competition for permanent EU civil servants. If you come here to graduates, administrators 85, you are going to find examples of the different exercises. They are just examples. They are the classical examples, actually. And if you come here to get familiar with the OAT testing platform, you can even launch a public session with the platform. So you get familiar with the calculator and also with the highlighting function and the scratch pad and all of this. Okay, so in case that you don't know about it, this is some important information to consider. And my last question was, is it easy to get into the result list? And I told you about it. This is one last step that you need to follow. This is like the last part of your journey towards being a civil servant. Right now, probably it is not our focus as you are in that part of preparing for the EU competitions, but yeah, obviously it takes some effort, but it's something that you can do, not only passing the result list, but also passing the exercises. It is not easy, again, but it is something that with consistency, you manage to get. And what I can tell you is that I was talking about it. We have a masterclass with a civil servant, and we were talking about the different profiles. And we have people which managed to get their position in the EU institutions, which were 24, 25 years old when they passed into the result list, and they passed also the result list. And then we have other profiles that people being 55 years old, and they also managed to do it. So to finish this session, and I'm quite sad because we are going to have a very short time for questions, but what I want to tell you is that probably at some point you thought that the people working at the EU institutions, they are special people with special talents, and they are beyond your scope. You think that the EU institutions is a dream that you have, but becoming an EU official, it is difficult. What I can tell you is that it is not. it is not. People working in the institutions, obviously they are genius. They are other people who are normal people like me, or like people who work in any possible institution. What I could tell you is that this is about not having the great talents. This is about, again, consistency, believing in yourself, working hard, because if not, you are not going to make it, of course, but thinking positive, thinking that actually you can do it. Because sometimes people start with the preparation, even considering that they are not that good, maybe because they applied for the Blue Book traineeship and they haven't made it in 4 or 5 times, or because they applied for a master and they were not selected. This is not that direct, okay? This is about sometimes being a bit lucky, also about not comparing yourself with others, because even in my perspective, I have to say I had some moments in which I struggled and I thought, am I doing what I was looking for? It is maybe I remember after my first I just finished my studies in law. I had a good profile, and sorry for the off topic, okay, but it may be helpful for some of you. I remember that I finished my bachelor in law, and I wanted to apply for a diploma, a postgraduate program regarding social responsibility, which I thought that it was the best postgraduate program at that moment. And I applied and I was rejected. And I remember that I was like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. How I'm going to make it now to another master? And that master that I entered, it was, I remember it was quite funny. I said sometimes in some interviews why I'm here in this world. And I said that it is by accident. When I was rejected at that master, I needed another master to do my PhD, which was on administrative law. And the only 2 masters that we had at my university was one regarding building a company, which I thought I would never have a company, obviously, because something I never care about it. The other one, it was about the EU institutions. And I was 23 at that time. And I said, I don't really like this about the EU institutions. And I don't like also about something else about creating a company. So yeah, at some point I said, I'm going to choose the master regarding the EU institutions, because the European Union, they work on administrative law, and that's a subject that I like very much. So let's see. And I completely fell in love with that, with the European Union. After that, I kept delving into the EU. I went to the diplomatic school in Madrid, and I wrote a dissertation regarding EU careers. And after that, I went to the College of Europe, and I managed to get the possibility of working for the EU. And it was great. Sometimes some rejections and some moments of struggle are the ones that make our destiny. And I probably am getting too much on the off topic here, but what I wanted to tell you is that do not worry, take your time, trust yourself, trust in you, devote time, and that will make the difference for sure. And I want to wish you all the best to all of you. I hope that this 1 hour and 40 minutes that I've been here with you today has been helpful. Honestly, we don't have time for questions. I'm really sad about it, but I can tell you something, okay? And I can completely give you my word that I will do this. In case that you have any question, you can write those questions on the publication that I made this morning regarding the 85 graduate competition. I will answer all of them. Okay, I know that my weekend is going to be answering emails. I will answer all of them. Yesterday, I actually checked the previous video that we had on YouTube. That there were some questions regarding the presentation. I'm really sorry about that, but I don't remember that much on YouTube, and my colleagues were not aware of that. So we had a couple of questions to answer, but I will keep an eye on all the potential comments that you may share on the YouTube channel, and I will answer answer them as well. And in case that by any chance, imagine that we don't answer one question, you can get right to me through my LinkedIn, and I always answer to everyone. Okay. So, well, I wish you all the luck in your future endeavors with the EU competition. Hopefully, sometime soon, in a few months, we'll have the possibility of looking each other in the eyes in Brussels and celebrating that you were successful. So, thank you, Laura, for all the answers to the chat. Thank you all for your kindness and your love and your appreciation. I really appreciate it much. Bye. Nice evening. Bye-bye, and thank you.